Welcome to Doc's Download, the podcast edition, where real conversations meet real Buckeye life. I'm your host, Dr. Melissa Shivers, Senior Vice President for Student Life, and better known as Doc, here to bring you stories, strategies, and a few laughs along the way. Whether you're a brand new Buckeye or a seasoned one, consider this your all-access pass to tips, truths, and triumphs straight from the heart of campus. Let's dive in, everybody. All right, everybody, welcome back to Doc's Download, the podcast edition. I am Dr. Melissa Shivers. Most folks do, though, call me Doc, and I am so glad that all of you are joining us today. This podcast is all about connecting with students, sharing resources, and talking about the Buckeye experience. Today, we're talking about something that shapes the Buckeye experience in powerful ways: student involvement and leadership. Not just titles or positions, but the real life skills that come from getting involved here at Ohio State. And I am so thrilled to have three amazing guests joining me. Dr. Scott Brown. Dr. Brown is serving as our Managing Director of Buckeye Commons. If you have not heard of Buckeye Commons, you should. And we'll talk a lot more about that this afternoon. Then we have Serena Rabi, a fourth-year student leader who does all the things, all of the things. I don't even know how to capture all the things. And then we have Melanie Riether, who is a fourth-year student and a rec sports student employee. Thank you all so much for being here today. All right, so one of the things that I've learned in this podcast is that people are very curious and want to know more about who you are as an individual. We now know that you're involved in leadership, but who are you? So I want to give you an opportunity to tell us a little bit about yourself, but then talk about your one or two most favorite things about Ohio State. When I've tried to limit people to one, it can get them very uncomfortable to have to choose. So I'm going to allow you to have two. And Serena, I think I'm going to start with you. Tell me a little bit about you, and then tell me the things that you love about Ohio State.
Okay, well, like Doc said, my name is Serena. I'm a fourth year. I study health sciences and human nutrition, and I am the executive vice president of Buckeye-thon. I would say that is one of my most favorite things about Ohio State. I am a coach at Orange Theory Fitness, which is one of my favorite little side quests that I have in my life. I love to run. I'm running my 5th half marathon in October for Nationwide Children's Hospital. Love that so much. And I actually commute. I commute from Powell, Ohio to the campus every single day. And I started living in Park Stradley and then chose to commute after my second year. And I definitely want to talk more about that today and how it impacts involvement at Ohio State. But yeah, I think Buckeye-thon, top tier involvement at Ohio State, one of my favorite things, including the dance marathon. And then secondly, I think being able to connect with the staff at Ohio State has been really valuable to me, and I love how open everybody is to connecting and getting to know the students and giving them all the opportunities that we have here at Ohio State.
That's awesome. Thanks, Serena.
Of course.
The Orange Theory, we can talk about that. I see your videos in the morning, and I'm like, why is she up at 4 a.m.? That's so impressive, and you're like going to work. Anyway, all right, Melanie, tell us a little bit about you.
Yeah, so I am a fourth-year medical anthropology major and then minoring in nonprofit management, which can sound a little different. No one really knows at first what that means, but basically I'm looking at communities and cultures, analyzing them, understanding their history, and I want to apply that in some days, looking into nonprofits, rather that be the YMCA, the Cystic Fibrosis Foundation. I've worked with all, but overall I love community, and I think that really connects with who I am as well. I'm a very positive person. Most people see me and they're like, you're still smiling. Like, are you stressed? What's happening? And for me, it's just being a positive influence on others and being able to spread, I think, so much joy and push others, I see really makes people grow. And I love to do that. With that, I'm also a fitness instructor here at OSU. I joke that also my major is the unpack, as I'm an operations manager, a supervisor, and a group fitness lead. you can find me there all the time. I was there this morning. I was there yesterday. It's
You've
like
already been there
I've
this
already
morning?
been there. I was there actually at 5:15 a.m. to open up. Saw the sunrise at the unpack. It's a beautiful sight. You'll have to see it. But my role there has honestly taught me so much and is one of my favorite things about OSU, which is the community. I have noticed that since my first tour here, and it honestly brought tears to my eyes seeing how close everyone was. And now that I get to experience that and then also make a community for others, wow, it's a really special thing to be able to share with such a big population on campus.
That's awesome. Thank you. Did you all know each other before?
No.
Oh my gosh. Okay. I have so many things I want to chase, but I'm going to stay focused. Dr. Scott Brown, tell us a little bit about you and the things that you love about Ohio State.
Yeah, so I'm from Northwest Ohio, just outside of Toledo, and I knew I wanted to come to Ohio State since I was about 10 years old. First-generation student, came to Ohio State in 2003, and then graduated from here with my bachelor's in education in 2007. I stayed here to serve in AmeriCorps for a year and then left for graduate school and then full-time employment. So it's been 18 years, but now I am back in Columbus and back in my home state, and it feels really good to be here. During that stretch, I've worked as a student advocate in the Dean of Students office. I helped a university launch their experiential learning and high-impact programming, and most recently started a student engagement and student success initiatives office in one of the largest colleges at the University of Texas at Austin. So all of those experiences is what really led me back to Ohio State, back to the managing director of Buckeye Commons. But really, when I think about Ohio State, I think the first word that comes to mind is opportunity. As a first-generation student, knowing I wanted to come here at such a young age, I was eager to want to get plugged into the community. And my first job on campus was working the 2 a.m. to 5 a.m. shift in Morrison Tower. We were I don't know if it's still a 24/7 building, but we were at the time. And I took it because I wanted to get plugged into the community. That opportunity led to becoming a resident advisor for the Spanish Living Learning community, which then opened the door to study abroad in Toledo, Spain. So to go from Toledo, Ohio to Toledo, Spain was pretty special. And then I became a student employee in disability services. And then that really informed my career and what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. And because of all of the opportunities at Ohio State, that's what really led to me coming back here and serving in a senior leader role.
Wow, full circle.
Full circle.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you all for my guests and listeners. You can see why we have these amazing folks here today to talk about the importance of leadership and ways to get involved. I had the opportunity, you all, to visit with a lot of first-year students. I visit with them during the summer, and then I get the chance to reconnect with them when they finally arrive on campus. And one of the questions that I'm getting more frequently is, how do I get involved? This is such a big place. There are so many things. Doc, when I hear someone say 1,400 student organizations, it just makes me want to go crawl under my bed versus making me want to run toward it. What would you all offer as ways to get involved? And sometimes that's about student organizations. Melanie, I think about the importance of student employment and how that can play a part in how students get connected. So I would love to hear you all talk a little bit about the pathways to involvement. And Dr. Brown, I'm going to start with you, and then Serena, I'll jump to you, and then Melanie will continue the involvement, going down the involvement tree. Scott?
Sure. So it's important to know is there's not a one-size-fits-all approach to getting involved and to finding leadership opportunities on campus. Because there are so many ways to get involved, students can really customize their journey and what they want to get out of their time at Ohio State. There are certainly common ways to do that. One is through student organizations. Students can join one of the many 1,400 plus registered student organizations that reflect students' academic interest, cultural interest, athletic, social, faith, spirituality, and religion, and so much more. So that is one way for sure. Service and community engagement are also common ways and really great ways to connect with peers and to learn more about the community where you're living. A couple of programs that come to mind immediately are Buckeye Serve, which is our alternative break program where students can travel across the United States, even abroad, with a small cohort of their peers and facilitators to engage in week-long service and to really immerse themselves in another community and learn and work alongside community partners and engage in reflective activities. Another great leadership program that's a signature leadership development program is the Buckeye Fellows Leadership. And that is a 2-year transformative experiential learning program where students have the opportunity to network and connect with alumni, with community partners, engage in immersive experiences, travel. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we've had Rhodes Scholars and Fulbright Scholars come out of that program. You mentioned earlier about campus employment. That's how I got involved early on at Ohio State and helped me feel connected to my community. Within student life, we have the Student Employment Experience Program, and we support 4,500 plus students and over 350 supervisors. And that is a great learning opportunity for students to think more than just having a front desk position, but some of the skills that can be developed from that. So that's another opportunity. And then I think about different councils like undergraduate student government, the Council of Graduate Students, Residence Hall Advisory Councils, and many, many more. Those are all great ways to get plugged in. And again, it's not a one-size-fits-all. Sometimes it's just thinking about what interests you, what are you passionate about? What are you curious about? And sitting down and thinking about, okay, well, how can I find opportunities that align with all of that? And what I'm hoping for as we build up Buckeye Commons is that we will be that go-to center where students can come to us and say, I really want to get involved. I know and one of the great things about all of these opportunities at Ohio State is that you have access to resources, and that can also be overwhelming. And so having staff who can sit alongside you and think about the best path forward is something that we're creating in Buckeye Commons. And oh, by the way, we also have a team of career coaches who can help you make meaning of all of those experiences that you'll engage in as an undergraduate student.
That's incredible. Thank you. I learn something new every time we have these sessions, so thank you all. Melanie, I'm going to jump to you because Scott talked about the importance of student employment and how that made such a difference for him, and that was one of his entry points. Talk a little bit about that from your perspective, and then Serena, I have not forgotten about you, but I just kind of want to connect those dots.
Yeah, I feel what's so special about OSU employment, especially for students, is you can find things that are going to fit your passions and fit your relationships on what you want to build upon, but you also can find a job where you just want to maybe continue a friendship, continue a work on the side. It doesn't have to be related to your major, but what I think is so foundational about OSU employment is it's still going to have you have that entry-level support into a career, right? I kind of look at it as you're going to have the operations view. You're going to have a view into leadership and communication. And I feel like those 3 foundational aspects are going to carry students to maybe understand what goals they want in their future careers. And again, that could be at the RPAC, that could be with dining services. I know we have tons of different opportunities, even things related to research. And I think the best thing and most important thing is I feel most professionals in this and pro staff and professors always want us to grow. And I think that's what makes me so excited to want to get students involved with employment is we are wanting to push students to grow in every step. If that's getting a promotion or going to a professional development event, there's always ways that I think we can push our students to grow and find a passion for, though it might just be a student job, you can find so many ways to improve within your skill set. And I think that encourages and gets students really excited for what's to come in the future as well.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Serena, talk to us a little bit about sort of how you got started as a new student, 4th year now. What were things that were really critical to helping you navigate and find your community and where you wanted to invest your time? How did you do that?
Yeah, I think, that's a great question. When I first started here at Ohio State, I joined a scholars group. So I was in Health Science Scholars. And I think that even hearing from other students in Buckeye-thon, especially with Mount Scholars and Mount Leadership, the scholars group is a really great way to find some people that you can go to what I think is the most important part of your freshman year, the involvement fair. The involvement fair can be a really scary place. And I remember my first year coming onto campus, I went with a couple of the people in my scholars program, and we all just walked around. And there was nothing specific that we were looking for. And I think that is a really important thing. I think when the goal is experience, you're not going to find something wrong for you. It's never going to be a failure. And so looking around, I had previously, because of living in Columbus, known about Buckeyethon. And I knew coming into it that was what I wanted to experience, but that didn't keep me from wanting to explore other things as well. So Involvement Fair was a really crucial way of getting involved, and that's where I got my first Buckeyethon t-shirt, which I still have to this day. But in Park Stradley, I remember seeing, there's just flyers everywhere your first couple weeks of school, and I decided I was going to apply for community council. And so I did, and I thought this is a great way for me to get some leadership on campus and just find people who live in my residence hall that aren't in my scholars program but can, help me grow. So that was a really influential opportunity, and I used that for my first year, and then transitioned into other positions in different clubs and whatnot. But I think those two were a really great start for me, the Scholars Program, Community Council, and then joining Buckeyethon as a general body member in my first year. And one thing that I think I really value about Buckeyethon specifically, just since that's been the biggest involvement I've had on campus, is that as the official program of official philanthropy of student life, we are involved in so many other student organizations rather than just ourselves. So being able to connect with different sorority and fraternity life, and then the scholars programs and all the other student organizations, they can all work within Buckeyethon. And that's where I found a lot of my friends and a lot of my connections here on campus. And then secondly, I think coming onto campus and learning how to get involved, mentorship is super, super important. I was lucky enough to come into Buckeyethon and find somebody who wanted the best for for the freshmen and wanted to teach them what maybe not to do and what to do, and basically give all of the information that maybe they had to learn from, so that way you wouldn't make the same mistakes. Now, mistakes are still valuable to do, and I made several of them, but I think having a mentor and just trusting that people want the best for you is a really important thing. And finding that within my student orgs and community council was really, really valuable to me.
What I love about all of your stories, but in particular, Serena, you talked about living on campus for the first 2 years and then deciding to commute. Mm-hmm. What was sort of magical about what you did, though, was establish the things that you wanted to be a part of.
Yes.
Rather than trying to figure out how to be a part of it and living away. So you were able to create a pretty solid foundation for yourself of what involvement would look like, and still able to maintain that level and type of involvement even though you don't live on campus. I think sometimes people meaning me, worry that when students live off campus and they haven't established that connection with the community, it's difficult to be able to do that once you move off. And so you were brilliant. I don't know if that was your plan, but you could certainly say that it was, and we all believe you, that building this connection and then living at home and commuting in was still very impactful for you.
Yeah, and I think that was the biggest reason I wanted to live on campus my first year. And I remember talking with my mom. I was like, I just really love being at home. I'm a homebody, and we have a lot of fun together, me and my mom. But she told me, you got to experience it. You got to try it out. And I'm really, really glad that I did, because like you said, I was able to build the foundation and start from a really strong place. Once I went into second year and I was living at home, it was all about being intentional with my time. So transitioning from that, being able to walk to a Buckeyethon meeting within 10 minutes to having to plan out staying on campus for several hours a day, it was something that was difficult, but also allowed me to experience more of campus, I think, because instead of going to class and going back home, it was like, okay, you're on campus for a couple more hours, try to find somewhere new to study, new to sit, somebody new to meet up with for lunch. So it was kind of, in a way, allowed me to be more involved than I had expected. And those fears definitely kind of fizzled out after the first couple months of living at home.
That's wonderful. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Brown, you've seen hundreds of students in leadership roles, some that have positional titles, others are students who have made their way into an organization and lead from the back or the middle. Talk about why you think that leadership is such a critical part of the student experience.
Right. So thank you for that question. And, I do think of leadership as less of a position and more of a mindset. And, when I think about, positional leadership, and oftentimes that's, based on title or where one sits in the organizational chart. And the power and authority that comes along with that is, because of where they are within the organization. And those who follow do it not because they always want to, but because they have to. And the beauty of everyday leadership really is anybody can do it. No matter what role you have within a group or an organization, if you're a first-year student just as an active member of a club, or you have a senior officer position as the president or secretary, anybody can exude positional leadership. And with the power and authority that comes with it, it's earned. And, it's really earned through character and trust and building relationships with others. And so when I think about it in that sense, and how we do a really good job of helping students build their leadership capacity, we know that leadership is a skill that is important to employers. That's one of the many skills, along with teamwork and problem solving and digital fluency, but leadership is up there as well in terms of what employers look for in recent college graduates to have. I'm from the school of Gallup Clifton Strengths, and so I'm a certified strengths coach. So I think a lot about leadership and developing leadership from within. To me, it's more of an intrapersonal activity rather than an interpersonal activity. Now, certainly it requires, engaging effectively with others. We need each other. Nothing happens in a vacuum. We need each other. And to have the opportunity to, learn about that, to practice it, on a daily basis as a student, that's our ultimate goal, right? Is to prepare students for life beyond graduation and to help them develop skills that they can carry with them throughout their lives. Whether they stay right here in Columbus or go back to a hometown in Ohio or somewhere, go, live that, all over the country and in the world, wherever they are, we want them to be engaged citizens. And so this is a great sort of laboratory to develop those important skills such as leadership and to refine them over time and to kind of get in that habit of practicing them on a daily basis.
That's wonderful. Yeah. Thank you so much. Continue to be amazed, quite frankly, by the number of students that find the passion and the thing that they believe they are really good at when they are here at Ohio State. It's as if the doors just open up and people feel free to explore things that perhaps they've never even had access to or even knew was possible. And then all of a sudden they sort of walk right into this confident space that sometimes at convocation I see fear for first-year students. And then when they find their place and they figure out what they want to do, all of a sudden there's this level of confidence that you all exude because of what has happened or allowed you to experience at Ohio State. And there's something pretty magical about that.
Yes, and that does bring up a core memory of mine of when I was a student here and having the opportunity to study abroad in Spain. And the furthest west I had traveled before that was Chicago. I'd been in the Northeast and, of course, down south, but I didn't travel much beyond that. And then to go to a new continent really helped me develop sort of self-reliant skills, of course, global competency. But that's when I really developed confidence in myself, like, I can do this. And I just met with the director of global education the other day, and she shared with me that 99% of students who went on a faculty-led study abroad experience last summer, 99% of students said they developed leadership skills from that experience. Wow. And so I know we talked about student employment, we've talked about student organizations and formalized leadership programs, but even something like study abroad. And it's really about how you're making meaning of that experience and tying it back into leadership. It can come in many forms.
Isn't that great?
Yeah.
It's just incredible. I didn't get to enjoy study abroad. It just wasn't a big part of my undergraduate experience. But the number of students that I have been able to interact with who have enjoyed a study abroad experience are able to really capture the difference that it made in their lives. Not just that they got to go to another country, but it challenged them to think outside of the norms that they had experienced. And this is all I know, to going to a place where they were very unfamiliar and finding that joy in doing that versus fear in doing that, which it's huge as you think about what next steps look like for you. Part of that success comes from the things that you're able to do really well, but also the things that you're able to move beyond and to lean into in a very different way. All right, last part of our conversation, practical advice. So just think about you're offering perspective to someone who's saying, I haven't made my connection yet. What is one piece of practical advice that each of you would offer to our listeners, which can oftentimes include parents? So if you want to add a nugget here about how parents and families can support their student in leaning more into developing leadership skills, please feel free to go there as well. Melanie, I'm going to start with you, and then Serena, and then Scott.
All right. It's so hard to decide on one thing, as there's so many things within leadership and opportunities here, and hearing everyone talk about these today is just so inspiring and shows you, one, just how supportive Ohio State is. For me, it's going to sound really simple, but say yes mindfully, right? I feel like talking to students, right, you do want to tell them to try everything. I remember my freshman year, everyone told me to just jump in and do everything I could. And while that's a great thing to tell the students, the best thing I can say is say yes, but mindfully in a way that you can analyze on how it's going to help you balance that work, that education, and even your passions, right? So maybe taking on an org and seeing how you can advance in that leadership, find a community. Maybe you're finding a leadership position within a job, and maybe it matches with your major, maybe it doesn't, but you're still expanding yourself to an extent to where you're also tackling on your studies as well, which telling that to a future employer, oh my gosh, how impressive is it to hear that you got to balance all those things, growing, challenging yourself. And with that, there's just so many ways to expand. I'm trying to think on ways, because when it talks about parents, I wanted to add a point to this as someone who has very supportive parents, and they're always encouraging me to do my best. And I think it's taking on even the smallest achievements, where it's like, Mom, I went to a club today, or Dad, I made friends sitting on the oval today. I think encouraging those small achievements, though, going to college is such a big step. So encourage those small steps, because then you'll see college students taking them by themselves, right? If we kind of tend to push and say, hey, get a job as soon as you can, or join orgs, right? You tend to see students maybe get a little frazzled by wanting to have that push to do that. But when you see students kind of naturally find those communities and then see others nurture them, wow. And I think my parents saw that within me as I found the RPAC and I found other student orgs. I found ways that people appreciated my positivity and the way I wanted to help others grow. And I found a passion within operations, within showing students that they can grow within any job. So I think saying yes where you can, keeping a balance, and being supportive where you can.
Good luck following that, everybody. I can't wait to hear how you do it. Melanie, that was amazing. I'm now inspired and ready to go join something else. I don't know exactly what it is, but thank you. That was wonderful. Serena?
Oh, goodness. Following that is going to be hard, but that was amazing. So thank you for sharing that. I think one piece of advice that I would give, just from experiencing lots of interactions with freshmen this year, especially with all the volunteering, moving people in, going to the OWL, Hoot Fest after they all helped move in all the new freshmen. One thing that I've seen happen a lot is a student will come up to me and say, well, this helped me get to medical school. Well, joining this club helped me do XYZ. And it's always a very, very far for our goal, And I think that one of the things that you have to do when you're starting to join these clubs is it's not checking boxes. You're not just joining things to join things. Like you said, say yes mindfully. And it's not always about the final goal. I mean, I know some people join Buckeyethon and they think, oh, I want to go and be a doctor. And by the end of the experience, they're like, I want to work in nonprofit. And then I've seen people join the pre-PA club or pre-med club. And then they switch, you know what? I want to go to dental school. So it's never about that final goal. And I think understanding that you have something to learn from everyone, no matter who it is. And when you come in as a freshman, even me a little bit, I would say I came in thinking, I know what I'm doing. I want to join Buckeyethon. I want to do this. I want to do that. But coming in with that mindset is really, it's not the best way to go about things, because truly, no matter the age, no matter what organization they're working in or anything, you have something to learn from everyone. And I think once you can take that in and understand it, then you'll be able to find success wherever you go. But yeah, generally just not taking everything as a stepping stone. It is once you're passionate about something, things will come to you. You just have to let it happen and be a little bit patient.
Mm-hmm. And be flexible,
yes,
too.
Very flexible.
Because what you thought would be may not end up being exactly where you land. And that's okay, too.
Exactly. It might not be meant for you.
It may not be. Mm-hmm. Everything is not. That's wonderful. So, yes, mindfully, not checking just a box. Yes. Don't just check a box. Dr. Brown?
Visit Buckeye Commons. No, I
support that.
Yeah. One of the skills that, I always encourage students to develop into practice is becoming their own self-advocate. To a point that was made earlier, the campus, we have so many staff and faculty here. We all want to see students succeed and do well. But there's no, like I mentioned earlier, there's no sort of one-size-fits-all approach towards a student's success. And so in order to really help you tailor your experience and to customize that experience and to figure out what you need as an individual, in some ways you have to tell us, so then we can help guide you and assist along the way. But unless we don't know, it's harder to be a supportive figure. So, not being afraid to go to faculty office hours or to pop into a staff member's office and just to tell them what you're interested in, what you would like to explore. And then from there, we can kind of help guide along the way. So self-advocacy is a big part of it. And there's no one magic formula for what should be, the program or activity to get involved with. To me, it really is more about meaning making. And I love hearing stories about, I went on this, I served in the community, or I went on this alternative break trip, or and it made me think differently about my major. I didn't necessarily change my major, but it made me think a little bit differently about how I'm exploring or moving through the degree requirements. And so be open to those opportunities and reflect on them and take some time to think about what are those lessons that you're learning, what are the skills that you're developing as you move throughout your undergraduate career.
That's wonderful. So for our listeners, I think you've received a wealth of knowledge and really good information and advice thinking about this notion of leadership development and continued conversations around the importance of involvement and engagement. But as I think about both the small messages, but also the big overall message, it is about finding your own path. Leaning into asking for help because we want to be helpful to you. Let us help you get started. That we create welcoming environments for people to be able to walk into an organization or a position, a job on campus, and know that they're going to be able to connect dots both for their personal passions as well, potentially as the things that they want to pursue academically and perhaps even in the future. And last but not least, be okay with challenging yourself. Stepping a little bit outside of that comfort zone, leaning in more to exploration. You come in with a plan. Don't sort of decide that this is no longer going to work for me because it didn't go as you planned. Think about how do I benefit and what are the things that I can learn through this shift in what I thought my future would be. All of those things are okay. And Ohio State has so many good resources to help you to be able to make that pivot. when I'm thinking about parents and families, being a good cheerleader and supporter, and also being a really good listener to help your student sort of think through, what am I learning now? And why is this so much more disruptive than I planned for it to be? And does it mean that I'm doing something wrong? No. It actually means that you're taking advantage of everything that a university experience is supposed to provide you. And that is absolutely okay. And actually, to me, it's what we want for our students and our community to build from. In the Office of Student Life, we always talk about our focus as being on helping students and staff engage, learn, and thrive. What I hope that today's podcast provided for our listeners and certainly for our incredible guest is sort of an empowerment around doing all three of those things, and that there are so many people here to help and support you all along the way. And the three guests that joined me today are incredible examples of people that have navigated this experience, have benefited greatly from this experience, and you too can also land a job doing the things that you love to do or that you started and made those connections for you in higher ed when you were an undergrad. So I hope that you all have enjoyed your time here. Scott, Melanie, Serena, thank you. You all have been so wonderful, and we are so grateful that each of you chose Ohio State twice. We are very grateful for that. And certainly to my listeners, I hope that you enjoyed today. This has been Doc's Download. And until next time, go Bucks. This program is a presentation of the Office of Student Life at The Ohio State University, recorded in the studios of WOSU Public Media. Your engineer is Dalton Jones. Producers, J. Randall Hicks and Matthew Swearingen, and executive producer, Jen Vandemark. The views expressed are those of the host and guest and do not necessarily reflect those of the university. Join us next time for another edition of Doc's Download, the podcast.